Let's go, girls.
Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe.
Let's go. It's Women Talking Football, or WTF for short. Of course, not to be confused with WFT. My name is Mallory Hartley. I'm the associate producer here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and Dave Campbell's Texan Live once again in the hostess's chair. And sitting over there, turning the little knob, scrolling on her laptop, she is the executive producer of Dave Campbell's Texas Football and Dave Campbell's Texan Live. It's AP! Miss Ashley Pickle.
Yo. Howdy. I'm trying to make sure we're actually live here.
That would be great if we weren't live.
We are on YouTube.
But we can also record. Because remember, we tried to go live at
Correct.
Hill Country
yep, there it is.
Clinic,
It just took a second. Oh, girl's a little sleepy. Oh, oops.
She is a little I like that angle, too. She is a little sleepy. I wonder if Tepper did something to her.
Probably.
Because Tepper had to run TFT today.
Yeah, because the tweet's not popping up, so.
I think Tepper did something.
I agree.
But anyways, that's neither here nor there. I got that from Tepper when he came in. Anyways, we are an internet show. We're here every Thursday at 2 p.m. talking football around the Lone Star State. Ma'am, it's already episode 31.
Yeah, that's wild.
Talking football. It's been quite the ride. It doesn't feel like 31 episodes.
No, because we had a couple people, recently ask us, oh, when did y'all start WTF?
Yeah, right.
You know, when exactly did you start? And it was July 15th of last year. And, you kind of look down at the calendar and you're like, shoot, it's magazine season. We're, I always feel like April really is when magazine season gets kicked into gear.
Yes.
And then after that, it's you're basically there,
March, April, May,
because then, SQTs are already starting this weekend.
This weekend they're already starting?
That's why Steph's in town, because he's an absolute junkie and he can't help himself.
He was in Canada.
I actually don't know why he's down.
And
I'm assuming it's for SQTs.
Man, that SQT, man, that sounds pretty good.
I was just going to say, that is a total assumption on my part, but I guarantee you he's going to SQTs this weekend.
Yeah, we got to get out to some too.
We do.
Those are seriously a blast.
I do love going to
SQTs.
SQTs.
They are seriously a blast because we can get some good content out of those. But anyways, on today's show, friends and fellow peers, let's talk recruiting.
Yeah.
This is not This Week in Recruiting, but we are going to talk some recruiting. 39 names have been added to the 2025 DCTF 5-star watch list, and we're going to get you caught up on all those names that you need to be looking out for in the next coming years. And then in the back half of the show, stick around because we got to talk to someone super fun yesterday. She is an up-and-coming singer/songwriter and also the daughter of a coach, so she seriously fits into the show so perfectly. It's Miss Faith Alexa, so please stick around for that. But packed show today, so let's go ahead and get started with some recruiting.
Yeah, shout out Greg Powers.
Shout out Greg Powers. He helped me a little bit on this segment. So
well, and just to give another preface is you're going to talk about 3 of the athletes that are listed on there, but there are 39 names added to the list that are on TexasFootball.com. So here's 3 of them, but there is a whole ton more that Powers has named.
And I'm super excited to do this segment too because I do love the recruiting side of stuff, and then we're finally talking about some football again. I think that we needed to turn our brains off a little bit from the football season because, to be honest, I was very
you live and breathe it.
You live and breathe it. I mean, you really do. You're surrounded
7 days
by
a week
for half a year. So the fact that we got to kind of take a break from that a little bit, talk some basketball was a kind of a breath of fresh air.
I was going to say, and the other side of that too is we were literally knee deep in basketball coverage. In years past in the off season, had we done this a year ago and been in the off season, we still would have been all in on football because we weren't doing much with the Texan Live and game scheduling side of stuff. This year, literally, we were scheduling every single basketball game that happened throughout the playoffs. So there was not room in our brains for any football stuff because we were so in on basketball. But now we have a little bit of a break. There's soccer going on, but it's just one sport. So it's easy to flip that little football switch back on.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to get back into some football. So for those of you that don't know or might not be familiar with, DCTF names their own 5-star recruits of each class, and we only do 5. So our very own director of recruiting, Gregory Powers. Do they call him Gregory?
I call him Grev.
Or
but I can call him Grevery.
Grevery.
I like it.
Shoot.
When he's in trouble, he's Grevery.
I hope he's watching this because we can go out there. You're Grevery now. But our director of recruiting, Greg Powers, put out an article on TexasFootball.com/recruiting if you want to get more specific. Over 39 names that you need to watch out for that have the potential to be named as 5 stars for the class of 2025. Now, to go a little bit deeper into the woods here, we only have named 2 5 stars for the class of 2024. So don't be expecting these names to pop out like next week because we're still working on the class of 2024. But this is was an interesting article to kind of, maybe become more familiar with the sophomore class because I don't feel like the underclassmen really have much of a spotlight on them, during the season, unless, they're filling holes or stepping up in a big way, stuff like that. So
I will say that Powers told us the other day during This Week in Recruiting, he was talking about how, don't get me wrong, he's very excited to name the class of 2024 5 stars, and he'll do that in our DCTF Rising rankings as those continue to come out. Like you mentioned, 2 of them have been named. But he told us, he said, this 2025 class is about to be a repeat of 2023, where it is
there's just
everywhere. There's 15 people that legitimately could be a 5-star, and I don't know how he does it, but I'm glad he has to do it and I don't, of trying to decide who merits that top 5, the 5-star positions.
Right. Well, and like we mentioned earlier, we're only going to talk about 3 of these potential 5 stars today because there's 39 names on the list. I mean, even picking 3 out of these 39 to go in depth about, I was like, how am I supposed to? I mean, there's so many.
I was going to say, and to be clear, like, the ones that you picked were the ones that you watched film over and were most interested in from your perspective. Like, the 3 that we're about to talk about are not the leaders in the clubhouse by any stretch. They're all in on that mix. There's 39 of them that are in on the mix for being a 5-star.
Right.
But so these were the ones that you liked the most.
I was going to say, don't think this is any kind of inside to who's going to be named a 5-star for the class of 2025.
because we are not Grev.
We are not Grev. We don't have the ability to be Grev.
No, I would love to be Grev.
A machine as well. Yeah, me too. But no, these are just 3 names that I picked out from the list that I thought that I watched their tape over and could talk a little bit about. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with the first athlete on this list. It's Humble Atascocita athlete Tori Blaylock. He's listed as an athlete and all-purpose back who is already rated as an elite level prospect only as a sophomore. He's ranked as the number 5 player at his position in the sophomore class, ranked 47th in the class of 2025, and he's the 8th ranked player in Texas. Man, that's quite a resume there,
Seems
I would say.
Pretty stinking good for like 15 years old.
Yep, exactly. He stands at 5'11", 175 pounds. Of course, he's only going to grow because he is, in fact, a sophomore. He already holds 28 offers. 28 offers.
Insane. From
programs like Georgia, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Tennessee, Texas, and Texas A&M, and that's only a couple of them. I mean, there's a plethora of those kinds of programs in this list. And man, if you just look at his tape right there, he's just got the speed to be one of those breakout players, and he's got good vision when it comes to spotting holes in the lines, and he's just a tough, hard-nosed running back. I mean, he can play anywhere in that backfield, and he's just a lightning bolt. I mean, he's incredible. Look at him right there.
Yeah, watching this, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the vision, because especially for being this young, it's one thing to have that explosive power behind the line of scrimmage. It's another thing to be able to break free, and you notice he really elongates his strides the further he gets away and distances himself.
Right.
But I think a sophomore playing against the level of teams that he's playing at this point, I mean, Atascocita does not have an easy schedule by any stretch of the means. For him to have that good of vision is exactly why he has 28 offers, you said?
Right, yeah. Well, and those offers are only going to grow, so he could be the potential player that has literally the most offers maybe in his respective class.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know. He's also the son of a former NFL running back. His brother played at Wisconsin, and his other brother currently plays at Sam Houston State. So those athletic genes certainly run in the family.
And which it would explain his vision being so good. He's been watching other people do it in his family for so long now.
Right, exactly. And I think he actually has an offer from Wisconsin, which I could see him doing very well at Wisconsin. So, yeah, I mean, incredible player. Definitely a name to keep in the back of your head when it comes to naming 5 stars. Let's move on to our second player to watch. Lovejoy wide receiver Dalen McCutcheon. He's a wide receiver out of Lucas Lovejoy, who stands at 6 foot and weighs 175 pounds. He already holds multiple offers. I think it's around 20, but I wasn't able to get a definite answer on that. But of course, he holds offers from programs like Purdue, Houston, go Cougs, Oklahoma, Oregon, Arkansas, and Texas A&M, and much, much more than that. He's just looking at his tape right here. He's just one of those receivers that you can trust and that can bring in those really tough passes in coverage, double coverage, whatever. And this upcoming season, I think, for him will be the real test because they're losing 2 of their star receivers that were seniors. One of them was going to LSU and the other one was going to SMU. So that's honestly a freaking wide receiver factory out there in Lovejoy.
Oh, yeah.
But I think this season is going to be a real big test for him to see kind of how he fits in and if he can fill those kinds of big shoes still as a junior. I mean, not even a senior yet. So
yeah, I had the opportunity. Ish and I made it out to the Lovejoy game when they played North Crowley, which was obviously a disappointing game for Lovejoy. That's when we started to really put our eyes onto what North Crowley had.
Ray Gates and his squad over there.
Ray Gates and Pimpton, his wide receiver, he had an unbelievable game. But that all being said, what we were looking for the most in that game heading into it was that core of wide receivers, because like you mentioned, it has turned into wide receiver heaven out there for quite a few years now. Obviously, it wasn't the best game to watch for the wide receiving core out there, but what I will say is I do remember standing on the sideline and Dalen made an unbelievable catch, and I looked down at Ish, and I was like, hang on, that's not like the big 2. I was like, is that the third guy? Because I knew there were 3 of them, and he was like, yeah, that's the sophomore. And you could tell that as good as all the other receivers were, he had something special really starting to brew there. Yeah,
he's got a high vertical, too. He can pull
good hands, like really good hands.
He's got great hands, too. And I think Powers recently visited Lovejoy a couple of weeks ago and got to talk to head coach Chris Ross over there. And I think one of the highlights from that interview was that Chris Ross was like, man, we're bringing back a ton of talent. So definitely some cool receivers to watch out for there, but definitely keep your eye on Dalen McCutcheon, Lovejoy wide receiver for the class of 2025. All right, and let's round it all out.
I love this. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah.
We've had our eye on this kid for literally ever.
That's Tyler Chapel Hill athlete Demetrius Brisbane Jr. And he's listed as an athlete on the DCTF website because he starts at quarterback, but he'll rotate, I think Powers said, in and out at safety there, I believe. Also, Powers said that he actually saw him work out as a wide receiver at one of their camps. I think one of the next level athlete
it was the
camps.
next level athlete camp up here.
Yes, he absolutely has deserved the title of being an athlete.
Here's him playing safety. Well,
his college position is still unknown, but I think he's got the ability to really make an impact there at whatever position that he is put at. He's 6'1", 175 pounds, and holds offers from schools like LSU, Michigan, Kansas State, Texas Tech, UTSA, and Baylor. And he's listed as a dual threat quarterback, as you can see there, who can just give defenses a tough time defending the run and defending the pass game as well. And I think he's a real quick decision maker as well, which makes him literally lethal anywhere on the field on either side of the ball.
Yeah, I remember watching when Chapel Hill played Kilgore in the playoffs, and we had that game on Texan Live. It was their second game. They played back-to-back weeks because they finished, if you remember, they finished week 11 in district with them, and then they turned around, or maybe it was 2 weeks apart.
It was 2 weeks apart.
Because I think they played an area.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yes, you're right.
Something. It's something along those lines. It was either the week after or the week, 2 weeks after.
Yes.
But he just started turning it on that game, and man, you want to talk about something that Jeff Reardon, the head coach there at Chapel Hill, does so well is he puts trust into young guys because he's had to the past couple of years. I mean, heck, if you remember back 2 years ago when they made it to the state semifinal against Austin LBJ, they literally had a freshman quarterback, a freshman running back, a freshman wide receiver, and then most of their line was at that point, because they had a couple of injuries.
If they were still able to compete.
Oh, man. If there is something that Jeff Reardon does so well, it's giving the trust to young athletes like Demetrius Brisbane. Obviously, he warrants it. Reardon would be dumb not to let this kid be on the field. But I think that the coach continuously showing how much they trust the young athletes like that goes a long way in confidence building.
Absolutely. And I'm not quite sure on this, but I believe that there might be another guy from Chapel Hill on that list, which wouldn't surprise me.
Not at all.
Not at all. That's just it's a factory for dudes out there. So another name to keep your eye on for the class of 2025 and the potential 2025 5-star watch list. So like we said, only named 3 here because that's really only how I wish we had all day to name all 35 and talk about all 39 of them.
Running back Ricky Stewart. That's the other one from Chapel Hill.
Yeah, that's right.
Who is
unbelievable.
Beast.
So
that's a big boy.
It's a factory out there. Seriously is. But if you want to go more in depth on this and read all 39 names, you can check out Greg Powers' article on TexasFootball.com/recruiting.
Shout out Powers.
Shout out
always
Powers. All right, Pickle. We have an interview that we want to roll for you, but first, let's hear a word from our good friends at VCR Now.
Born and bred in Texas hits a little different, as it should. Texas loves doing business with fellow Texans. VCR Now takes its Texas roots as seriously as its many partnerships with schools and universities around the state. It's also why we're so proud to promote our brand in the pages of the Texas Bible, Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and on the airwaves of Texas Football Today. Driven by producing quality broadcast video, state-of-the-art audio, and LED video scoreboards at affordable prices, VCR Now makes sure to listen to your needs in its athletic department before recommending the next best steps. Building great products is our business, and it's our focus on building meaningful, long-term partnerships with our clients that sets us apart. From our 24/7, 365-day help desk, the training lab in our hometown of Red Oak, or our sports marketing business plan that puts money back in the hands of our athletic departments we support, VCR Now is built to last. Reach out to us today at info@vcrnow.com or by calling 855-GO-VCR-NOW. Again, that's info@vcrnow.com or by calling 855-GO-VCR-NOW.
Pickle, we had the pleasure. There I am.
Correct.
We had the pleasure of talking to an upcoming singer and songwriter who is also the daughter of Marble Falls head coach Brian Herman down there. She was fantastic. Absolutely love her to death. And we had met her at the Hill Country Coaching Clinic
correct,
a couple weeks ago and got to talk to her a little bit more after her gig that we saw her at. And we were like, man, we got to have you on Women Talking Football. And we wanted to have her in studio, but she's just so busy traveling.
Yeah. She lives in Nashville now.
Lives in Nashville, so it was hard to get her in studio, but she was more than happy to jump on Zoom with us yesterday. So,
and to be fair, we thought that we had heard rumblings of her being a coach's daughter. We kept seeing flyers with her name on it, and we were like, oh, okay, cool. There's live music. Like, she looks pretty young. This is cool. And we thought that we heard rumblings that it was a coach's daughter, but we weren't 100% sure. So we go into the establishment where she was singing, and we're mingling with coaches and stuff. And we just start, we hear her, really start singing, and we were like, oh my God. I was like, and I love country music. She sings country, but I was like, I love country music. And you don't really like country music. And you were like, she's unbelievable. And then we realized her dad, Coach Herman, was standing right there, and then her mom and all that. And it was like, no, she's really good.
Yeah, no, she's fantastic. And we won't spoil any more for you. So without further ado, here is Women Talking Football's interview with Miss Faith Alexa. We're joined by the extremely talented and up-and-coming singer and songwriter, Miss Faith Alexa. Faith, thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on.
So you have the absolute coolest story ever. So for the people that don't know you very well, kind of give us that quick summary of who you are and kind of what you do.
Yeah, well, my name is Faith Alexa. Alexa is my middle name. My last name is Herman, and my dad is Coach Brian Herman. He's a Texas high school football coach, and so my whole life, grew up being football coach's daughter. And I don't know, people ask me where I'm from, and I kind of just say Texas because I don't really have a hometown, because if you know anything about Texas high school football, you don't really stay in one place for too long. If you get really lucky, you do. But growing up, I went to 3 different schools throughout, my childhood and through graduating high school. And actually my senior year, right before I graduated, my dad accepted the head football coaching position at Marble Falls High School. So that's 4 towns that my family has lived in because of his career and everything. And I don't know, I tell people that my life is like Friday Night Lights, the TV show. And everyone thinks I'm joking, but I'm like, it's pretty accurate. It's pretty accurate. But yeah, absolutely. That's a little bit about me.
And we'll get to the coach's daughter thing in a second, because that ties perfectly into what Women Talking Football is all about. But you're also a singer/songwriter. So talk to us a little bit about how you got into that, when you started singing, and how your career is going right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been singing and performing ever since I can remember. There are stories about me, from before I even could form memories myself, 2, 3 years old, just I'm babbling, but I'm definitely performing for everyone in the living room. And my parents say that they just knew that I had that, kind of makeup of a performer from kind of the second that I figured out how to move my body and talk. I was singing before I could talk. My parents are huge country music fans, and so that's where it comes from. They played country music all the time in the house, in the car, like everywhere we were, it was country music. And growing up in Texas, you can't really escape that either. But yeah, I started, so I was singing the national anthem at football games and school programs. By the time I was like 7 or 8, I started writing when I was about 8 years old. And I'm going to say writing loosely. I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan. I still am. But, I was introduced to her as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old. And so once I realized that she wrote her own songs, I was like, I want to do that too, if that's what Taylor Swift is doing. And, Faith Hill and Shania Twain, and all these people that I really, really looked up to because of my parents and their love for country music. I was like, well, if that's what they do, and that's how they get to be on CDs that are playing in my CD player in my childhood bedroom, then like that's what I'll do. My dad's job has a huge plays a huge part in, I think, why I turned so much to songwriting. And also my sister, in 2013, she was hospitalized and was diagnosed with a chronic illness. And as a 12-year-old, you don't really know how to go through all these emotions of like making the first move, because we moved when I was 10. And then 2 years later, go through all these really, really tough times, and you're such a young kid and everything. And so I turned to songwriting, and it truly has been the thing that has stuck with me the most. Like my life, it's changing all the time, where we're at, where we're living, who we're around, everything. And songwriting was the one thing that kind of was there for me all the time.
Well, and it's cool now because obviously you're living in Nashville. You blessed us with your presence at the Hill Country Coaching Clinic down in Fredericksburg. We got to see you perform, and we're like, man, this girl's really, really good, really talented. But you talk about songwriting being such a fundamental part of who you are, and really been the thing to push you to pursue this as a professional career. You tell us about Somebody New. We know that you wrote that. What is that album like, and where did that inspiration come from?
Yeah, so Somebody New, when I moved to Nashville, I really felt like my life was coming together. Growing up in the way that I did was amazing. I don't have any complaints. I was very lucky. But when I moved to Nashville, I was able to kind of pursue music for the first time seriously. Growing up, I was, an athlete and an A+ student. And I think there were a lot of expectations being, the coach's daughter, as people like to call me. But going to Nashville, I was able to be Faith. I was able to be Faith Alexa. And it was kind of life-changing a little bit. I realized, oh my gosh, I have my own identity and I can pursue music like fully. There's nothing else. Obviously, I'm in school, so school's important. But music was able to really be number one for the first time ever. So Somebody New is about kind of coming into my own skin and being able to grow. And I think that the ages 18 to, I guess it was 18 and 19 when I was writing my Somebody New EP. And those are very formative years. And I don't think I realized that. I kind of thought those formative years were done and like, woohoo, college. But I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually figuring out who I am and who I'm supposed to be. And so Somebody New is definitely about self-discovery and acceptance and loving life and being okay with where you're at.
Well, we actually got to hear you perform a little bit at the Hill Country Coaching Clinic at one of the events. And your dad, Coach Herman, was standing kind of on the sidelines a little bit, and he just looked like the proudest dad in the entire world. So I'm curious, when he's watching you perform or wherever you are, listening to you practice, does he have a little bit of those coaching tendencies come out in him? Is he like, oh yeah, go Lex, Faith, what is he like?
Yeah. He, has been coached my whole life, right? He has coached basketball teams that I've been on. And I think that when it comes to my music, I think he's able to be dad and he's able to be a fan, which has been really cool because I love his coaching side. I am his biggest fan, but it's cool to see the roles kind of reverse, and him be my, one of my biggest fans. And he definitely still does the like pep talk thing. He definitely still, like I told him before this morning, I said, I've got the podcast today, I'm kind of nervous. And he was like, just be you, you'll do great. He like goes into coach and like, I don't know, coach and dad mode are kind of the same, I feel like. So, but yeah, it's really cool to, have him be such a big supporter because he definitely does have the you got this.
Well, we also met Mom while we were down there as well, and we know that she was just as proud taking videos and all of that. How often are they able to come to your gigs? I know you play some in Texas, obviously, and then a lot in Nashville. Has there been a good mix of them being able to get out there? Probably not in the football season, but maybe in the off season a little bit.
Yeah, no, they are so great. Any chance that they have to come watch me perform, they're here. I had my first like headlining show in November, and my dad wasn't able to make it because I think it was a Friday night.
Football season.
Like, football season, can't do that. But my mom came, which is huge because she doesn't miss a Friday night game for my dad. I had a show in May where I opened up for one of my friends, Mara Strepa, and both my parents came to that one. They're so supportive. It's really cool to see the shift from like playing sports my whole life and then being at every single game and, picking me up from every single practice. And that's just kind of something supportive parents do, right? So I think I definitely took that for granted, but seeing it change over to them being so supportive of my career. They've always been supportive of me singing and performing and writing songs, but watching them, travel the miles halfway across the country to come see a show that to me, I'm like, yeah, I mean, this is great, but I'm not playing Bridgestone Arena. I'm not playing the Moody Center. So it's not really a huge deal, but to them it is. And them being there for me is a huge deal. So they're the best. I couldn't do what I do without them.
Yeah, and before we let you go too, we want to ask, where can people listen to your music? Obviously, sometimes it's hard to get out to the shows, but if they want to listen just any time of the day, where can they find you?
Absolutely. I'm on every single streaming platform. So Spotify, Apple Music. If you don't use either of those, you can look me up on YouTube. I have links on my Instagram and my TikTok, and it's just Faith Alexa. I think if you just Google Faith Alexa, it should all pop up for you kind of on one page. But yeah, everywhere you listen to music, that's where I'll be.
Absolutely. Well, Faith, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your crazy and busy schedule to sit down and talk to us. We wish you seriously nothing but the best in your music career, and hopefully we can come see you in Beaumont soon.
Thank you so much. Yes, please come out to Beaumont. I'm very excited for that one. But thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you again to Faith for taking the time out of her busy schedule right now to hop on and talk a little bit about her and what she loves to do and being the daughter of a coach, because I'm sure she's got a crazy hectic life. But if you want, please follow her on Instagram. It's at Faith Alexa, Faith and then Alexa with an H at the end. And then of course on YouTube at Faith Alexa. So please give her some follows and some love on social media. And like she said, you can listen to all of her music on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. She's everywhere. And man, she's on the come up. She's going
really
to be
good.
I just have this inkling about her. And I feel like we have inklings about people, and they're usually right. And I just have this inkling that she's going to make it big.
Yeah,
I mean, she's already making it big,
Yeah.
but like she's winning a Grammy in a couple years. I can just feel it.
Well, and that's a hard, heck, it's like being a reporter or like an on-air person. There's, just like with music, there are a lot of people that want that job, and there are very few spots for it. And she is unbelievably talented, a genuinely good human. Like,
she's in the right. I mean, she moved to Nashville.
It's awesome. Yeah, she went for it. Like, that's huge.
Right. Exactly. I mean, she's doing all the right steps.
And it makes sense why her parents completely supported it, because she's really talented.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we found out that you guys have a crazy connection.
Yeah, I have
at the Hill Country Coaching Clinic. You've got a ton of connections with her.
Yeah, a ton of connections that I had no idea about. Funny enough, so my mom is a graduate of Marble Falls High School. A bunch of my family lives in Marble Falls. I have a cousin named Colton. He's in Marble Falls High School right now. He's graduating in 2 years. So I'm not sure if he's playing football next year. If he is, he'll be under Coach Herman. So that's one crazy thing. But after we met her and we met Coach Herman, and we went up to him and we were like, hey, we're Ashley and Mallory. We just want to tell you, she's really good.
Before we even got to that, do you remember we're standing there watching her?
I forgot about that.
And you're just staring at her, and I'm like, what are you staring at? And you're like,
I know
her. I know her from. And I'm like, well, she's famous. Like, you probably. She's like, no. You were like, I was like, I know her, and
it
so that's
was
where it started.
Killing me. And Mallory was so tired. She's like, just go ask.
Go ask her.
And I was like, good idea. So I went up. That's when I went up to Coach, and then we realized it was Marble Falls, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes a little bit more sense. Like, my family's been there forever. This all is kind of making sense. And I was like, that's not it. There's something else. Come to find out. So it's my entire mom's family that's from Marble Falls and all that. Come to find out, on my dad's family, the reason that I recognized Faith was because she graduated from Lockhart High School with my cousin. Like, my cousin that I'm like really close with.
I've met her.
Chicken. Everyone knows Chicken at this point. Chicken and Faith went to high school together. We're in the exact same class. And so when Mrs. Herman came up, like, I guess she talked to her husband about it, and he was like, oh, Lockhart. And I was like, Lockhart, that's how I started piecing everything together. And Faith was off talking to people much more important than us. So we're like, we're not going to bother. And she walks up and she's like, Chicken, that's your cousin, Pickle. I should have known. And then she started talking about my younger cousin, and they were like, yeah, we call her Dennis the Menace. And I was like, that's what we call her. So anyway, crazy, had absolutely no idea. We end up at the Hill Country Coaching Clinic, and it's like, oh yeah, my entire family. So yeah, it was quite an and I looked at Mallory and I said, I told you I recognized her. They played basketball together, and I had been to a couple of Kara's games, so that's how I recognized it.
Right. I was like, you could have solved that 20 minutes ago if you just want to go ask. But yeah, we started.
She's famous. I didn't want to ask.
I get it. Don't worry. I understand. But we started following each other on like Instagrams and stuff, and then sure enough, your profile pops up on her phone, and she's like, yeah, we've got a ton of friends in common.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's just crazy.
Yeah, we sent a Snapchat to my cousin at that point, and anyway, but yeah, it was just crazy. Totally had no idea, and it's like, oh yeah, I know both sides of your family.
Yeah.
No idea.
Crazy connection. You're basically famous because you know Faith Alexa.
This is true.
So basically,
that is my claim to fame.
And then I'm famous because I know you, and now I
know Faith,
her.
Yeah.
So it works out. So
there we go. Party in Nashville.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear me sing though. Like if she needs someone to, after she performs, if she needs someone to get rid of everybody from the stadium, hand me a mic and let me go at it, because I will clear a stadium like that if I start singing.
Yeah, me too.
I can talk on a mic, but singing not good. No, you're a good singer. You were in choir.
Yeah, I was. That doesn't mean much though. Anything can be in choir. Not kidding. But anyways.
Really, the sign-up sheet's just down the road.
It is. I see it right there. Yeah, no. But thanks again to Faith for taking the time to hop on with us and
go hit her up on Spotify.
Yes, please go listen to her, and Apple Music. Apple Music too. She's on Apple Music.
That's nothing to do with her. That's the fact that Mallory and I have an argument between Spotify and Apple Music constantly. So
it's Apple Music, ride or die. Apple Music.
Spotify.
Apple Music. That's going to do it for us. That's going to do it for us. Please make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcast
and Spotify
and Google Podcasts if you like what you hear. We are here every Thursday, reminder at 2 p.m., so make sure to keep tuning in. We thank you guys for all your support and really appreciate you guys tuning in week in and week out for listening to our nonsense every single week. On Apple Music. And we have a blast doing it. So, anyways, I don't even want to ask you if you have any final thoughts.
Yeah, I do. Go Spotify.
We'll see you next Tuesday. Or next Thursday.